Arthur Conan Doyle, The Sign of the Four. Chapter 12. The Strange Story of Jonathan Small. Part 1. The inspector in the cab was a very patient man, because it took me a long time before I came back to him. His face became dark when I showed him the empty box. "There goes the reward," he said sadly. "When there is no money, there is no payment. This night's work would have given £10 each to Sam Brown and me if the treasure had been there." "Mr. Thaddeus Sholto is a rich man," I said. "He will make sure that you get a reward, even without the treasure." But the inspector shook his head sadly. "It's a bad situation," he said again, "and Mr. Athelney Jones will think the same." His guess was right, because the detective looked very disappointed when I arrived at Baker Street and showed him the empty box. They had only just arrived, Holmes, the prisoner, and he, because they had changed their plan and stopped at a station on the way. My friend was lying in his armchair with his usual calm expression, while Small sat opposite him with his wooden leg resting over his good leg. When I showed the empty box, he leaned back in his chair and laughed loudly. "This is your fault, Small," said Athelney Jones angrily. "Yes, I hid it where you will never find it," he cried happily. "It is my treasure, and if I cannot have it, I will make sure that nobody else has it. I tell you that no living man has any right to it, except 3 men in the Andaman prison and me. I know now that I cannot use it, and I know that they cannot. I have always acted for them as well as for myself. We have always been the sign of 4. I know they would want me to do exactly what I have done, and throw the treasure into the Thames rather than let it go to the family of Sholto or Morstan. We did not kill Achmet to make them rich. You will find the treasure where the key is, and where little Tonga is. When I saw that your boat would catch us, I hid the treasure in a safe place. There is no money for you this time." "You are lying to us, Small," said Athelney Jones seriously. "If you wanted to throw the treasure into the Thames, it would have been easier to throw the whole box in." "Easier for me to throw, and easier for you to get back," he answered with a clever side look. "The man who was clever enough to catch me is clever enough to take an iron box from the bottom of a river. Now that the treasure is spread over 5 miles, it will be harder. It hurt me to do it. I was almost mad when you caught us. But there is no use being sad about it. I have had good times and bad times in my life, but I have learned not to cry over lost things." "This is a very serious matter, Small," said the detective. "If you had helped justice instead of blocking it like this, you would have had a better chance at your trial." "Justice!" shouted the ex-convict. "What kind of justice is that? Whose treasure is this, if it is not ours? Where is the justice in giving it to people who never worked for it? Look how I earned it. 20 long years in that hot, sick swamp, working all day under the mangrove trees and all night chained in dirty prison huts, bitten by mosquitoes, shaking with fever, and treated badly by every cruel black-faced policeman who liked to hurt a white man. That is how I earned the Agra treasure. And you talk to me about justice, because I cannot accept that I suffered all this only for someone else to enjoy it? I would rather be hanged many times, or be hit by one of Tonga's darts, than live in a prison cell and know that another man is living comfortably in a palace with money that should be mine." Small lost his calm mask, and all these words came out quickly and wildly, while his eyes burned and his handcuffs made noise as he moved his hands with strong emotion. When I saw his anger and passion, I could understand that Major Sholto had real reason to be afraid when he first learned that the injured convict was following him. "You forget that we know nothing about this," said Holmes quietly. "We have not heard your story, so we cannot judge if justice was once on your side. Well, sir, you have spoken kindly to me, even though I can see that it is because of you that I am wearing these handcuffs. Still, I do not feel angry about that. It is all fair. If you want to hear my story, I will not hide it. Everything I say is the truth, every word. Thank you. You can put the glass here beside me, and I will drink from it if I get thirsty. I am from Worcestershire, born near Pershore. I think you would find many people with the name Small living there now if you looked. I have often thought about going back there, but the truth is that I was never a very good member of the family, and I do not think they would be very happy to see me. They were all honest, religious people, small farmers, known and respected in the countryside, while I was always a bit of a wanderer. In the end, when I was about 18, I stopped causing them trouble because I got into problems over a girl, and the only way out was to take the Queen's money and join the 3rd Buffs, which was just leaving for India. I was not meant to be much of a soldier. I had only just learned the basic marching and how to use my gun when I was foolish enough to go swimming in the Ganges. Luckily for me, my company sergeant, John Holder, was in the water at the same time, and he was one of the best swimmers in the army. A crocodile caught me when I was halfway across the river and bit off my right leg as cleanly as a surgeon, just above the knee. Because of the shock and the loss of blood, I fainted, and I would have drowned if Holder had not grabbed me and swum to the bank. I stayed in hospital for 5 months, and when I finally left, walking with this wooden leg, I was told to leave the army and that I was not fit for active work. At that time, as you can imagine, I was very unlucky, because I was a useless cripple and not even 20 years old. However, my bad luck soon became something good. A man named Abel White, who had come there as an indigo planter, needed a supervisor to watch his workers and make sure they did their job. He was a friend of our colonel, who had helped me after my accident. To make a long story short, the colonel strongly recommended me for the job, and since most of the work was done on horseback, my leg was not a big problem. I still had enough of my knee to sit firmly in the saddle. My job was to ride around the plantation, watch the workers as they worked, and report anyone who was lazy. The pay was good, I had a comfortable place to live, and overall I was happy to spend the rest of my life working with indigo. Mr. Abel White was a kind man, and he often came to my small hut to smoke a pipe with me, because white people there feel closer to each other than they do at home. Well, I was never lucky for long. Suddenly, without any warning, the Great Mutiny began. 1 month, India seemed as calm and peaceful as Surrey or Kent. The next month, there were 200,000 wild rebels free, and the country became like hell. Of course, you know all about it, gentlemen, probably more than I do, because reading is not something I do much. I only know what I saw with my own eyes. Our plantation was in a place called Mutra, near the border of the northwest provinces. Night after night the sky was bright from burning houses, and day after day small groups of Europeans passed through our land with their wives and children, going to Agra, where the nearest soldiers were. Mr. Abel White was a stubborn man. He believed the situation was made to look worse than it really was, and that it would end as quickly as it had started. He sat on his veranda, drinking whiskey and smoking cigars, while the country burned around him. Of course, we stayed with him, Dawson and I. Dawson and his wife did the office work and management. Then one day, everything changed. I had been away on a distant plantation, and I was riding slowly home in the evening when I saw something lying together at the bottom of a deep ditch. I rode down to see what it was, and I felt a cold fear in my heart when I saw that it was Dawson's wife, cut into pieces and partly eaten by wild animals and dogs. A little further along the road, Dawson himself was lying face down, dead, with an empty revolver in his hand and 4 sepoys lying dead in front of him. I stopped my horse, not knowing which way to go. But at that moment, I saw thick smoke rising from Abel White's bungalow and flames starting to come through the roof. I knew then that I could not help my employer, and that I would only lose my own life if I tried. From where I stood, I could see hundreds of the rebels, still wearing their red coats, dancing and shouting around the burning house. Some of them pointed at me, and a couple of bullets flew past my head, so I rode away quickly across the rice fields and reached Agra safely late at night. But it turned out that there was not much safety there either. The whole country was in chaos, like a swarm of bees. Wherever the English could gather in small groups, they held only the ground that their guns could protect. Everywhere else they were helpless and running away. It was a fight of millions against hundreds, and the worst part was that the men we fought, soldiers, horsemen, and gunners, were our own trained troops, whom we had taught and trained, using our weapons and our signals. At Agra there were the 3rd Bengal Fusiliers, some Sikhs, 2 groups of cavalry, and a group of artillery. A volunteer group of clerks and merchants was formed, and I joined it, even with my wooden leg. We went out to fight the rebels at Shahgunj early in July, and we pushed them back for a time. But we ran out of gunpowder and had to retreat back to the city. Only bad news came to us from every direction. And that is not surprising, because if you look at the map, you will see that we were right in the center of it. Lucknow is a little more than 100 miles to the east, and Kanpur about the same distance to the south. From every direction there was only torture, murder, and violence. The city of Agra is a large place, full of fanatics and fierce people who worship strange gods. Our small group of men was lost in the narrow, winding streets. So our leader crossed the river and took position in the old fort at Agra. I do not know if any of you gentlemen have ever read or heard about that old fort. It is a very strange place, the strangest I have ever been in, and I have seen some strange places. First of all, it is very large. I think the area must be many acres. There is a newer part, which held all our soldiers, women, children, supplies, and everything else, with plenty of space left. But the new part is much smaller than the old part, where nobody goes, and which is left to scorpions and centipedes. It is full of large empty halls, winding passages, and long corridors that turn in and out, so it is very easy to get lost there. For this reason, people rarely went there, although sometimes a group with torches went to explore. The river flows along the front of the old fort and protects it, but on the sides and at the back there are many doors, and these had to be guarded, of course, both in the old part and in the part held by our troops. We did not have enough men, barely enough to guard the corners of the building and to use the guns. So it was impossible to place a strong guard at every one of the many gates. What we did was to organize a central guardhouse in the middle of the fort, and leave each gate under the control of 1 white man and 2 or 3 native soldiers. I was chosen to guard, during certain hours of the night, a small, isolated door on the southwest side of the building. 2 Sikh soldiers were placed under my command, and I was told that if anything went wrong, I should fire my gun, and help would come at once from the central guard. However, the guard was about 200 steps away, and the space between was full of a maze of passages and corridors, so I had serious doubts that they could arrive in time to help in case of a real attack. Well, I was quite proud to be given this small command, because I was a new soldier, and also had a wooden leg. For 2 nights, I kept watch with my Punjabi soldiers. They were tall, fierce-looking men, named Muhammad Singh and Abdullah Khan, both experienced fighters who had once fought against us at Chilianwala. They could speak English quite well, but I could not get much conversation from them. They preferred to stand together and talk all night in their strange Sikh language. As for me, I stood outside the gate, looking down at the wide, winding river and at the small lights of the large city. The sound of drums, the noise of tom-toms, and the shouting and screaming of the rebels, drunk on opium and bang, reminded us all night of our dangerous neighbors across the river. Every 2 hours, the officer of the night came to check all the posts and make sure everything was safe. On the third night of my watch, it was dark and unpleasant, with light rain falling. It was tiring to stand in the gateway for hours in such weather. I tried many times to start a conversation with my Sikhs, but without success. At 2 a.m, the officer came on his rounds, and for a moment it broke the boredom of the night. When I saw that my companions did not want to talk, I took out my pipe and put down my gun to light a match. In a moment, the 2 Sikhs attacked me. One of them grabbed my gun and pointed it at my head, while the other held a large knife to my throat and said quietly that he would stab me if I moved. My first thought was that these men were working with the rebels, and that this was the start of an attack. If our gate was taken by the sepoys, the place would fall, and the women and children would suffer as they did in Cawnpore. Maybe you gentlemen think I am just trying to excuse myself, but I promise you that when I thought of that, even though I felt the knife at my throat, I opened my mouth to shout, even if it was my last cry, to warn the main guard. The man holding me seemed to understand my thoughts, because just as I was ready to shout, he whispered, "Do not make a noise. The fort is safe. There are no rebel dogs on this side of the river." There was truth in his voice, and I knew that if I shouted, I would be killed at once. I could see it in his brown eyes. So I stayed silent and waited to see what they wanted from me. "Listen to me, Sahib," said the taller and fiercer of the two, the one called Abdullah Khan. "You must either join us now or be silenced forever. This matter is too important for us to hesitate. Either you are completely with us and swear it on the cross of the Christians, or your body will be thrown into the ditch tonight, and we will go over to our brothers in the rebel army. There is no middle way. Which will it be, death or life? We can only give you 3 minutes to decide, because time is passing, and everything must be done before the officer comes again." "How can I decide?" I said. "You have not told me what you want from me. But I tell you now that if it is anything that would harm the safety of the fort, I will not agree. So you can push your knife into me if you like." "It is nothing against the fort," he said. "We only ask you to do what your countrymen come to this land for. We ask you to become rich. If you join us tonight, we will swear to you on the bare knife and by the threefold oath that no Sikh has ever broken, that you will get your fair share of the treasure. 1/4 of it will be yours. We cannot offer more than that." "But what treasure is this?" I asked. "I am as ready to be rich as you are, if you show me how it can be done." "You will swear then," he said, "by your father's bones, by your mother's honor, and by the cross of your faith, that you will not raise your hand or speak against us, now or later." "I will swear it," I answered, "as long as the fort is not put in danger." "Then my friend and I will swear that you will have 1/4 of the treasure, which will be divided equally among the 4 of us." "But there are only 3 of us," I said. "No, Dost Akbar must have his share. We can tell you the story while we wait for them. Stand at the gate, Muhammad Singh, and give us a sign when they come. This is how it is, Sahib, and I tell you because I know that an oath is important to an Englishman, and that we can trust you. If you had been a lying Hindu, even if you had sworn by all the gods in their false temples, your blood would be on this knife and your body in the water. But the Sikh knows the Englishman, and the Englishman knows the Sikh. So listen to what I have to say. There is a Raja in the northern provinces who has a lot of wealth, even though his land is small. He got much of it from his father, and he has saved even more himself, because he is a greedy man who prefers to keep his gold rather than spend it. When the troubles began, he tried to be friends with both sides, with the sepoys and with the company. Soon, however, he believed that the white men would lose, because everywhere he heard only of their deaths and defeats. Still, he was a careful man, and he made a plan so that at least half of his treasure would stay safe no matter what happened. The gold and silver he kept in the vaults of his palace, but the most valuable jewels and best pearls he put into an iron box and sent it with a trusted servant. This man, pretending to be a merchant, was to take it to the fort at Agra, where it would stay until the country was peaceful again. In this way, if the rebels won, he would still have his money, and if the company won, his jewels would be safe. After doing this, he joined the sepoys, because they were strong near his lands. By doing this, remember Sahib, his property now belongs to those who have been loyal. This false merchant, who calls himself Ahmed, is now in the city of Agra and wants to enter the fort. With him is my foster brother, Dost Akbar, who knows his secret. Dost Akbar has promised to bring him tonight to a small side gate of the fort, and he has chosen this one. He will come here soon, and he will find Muhammad Singh and me waiting for him. The place is quiet, and no one will know he came. The world will never hear of the merchant Ahmed again, but the Raja's great treasure will be shared among us. What do you say to this, Sahib? In Worcestershire, the life of a man seems very important and sacred. But it is very different when there is fire and blood all around you, and you are used to seeing death everywhere. Whether the merchant Ahmed lived or died did not matter much to me. But when I heard about the treasure, my heart turned to it. I thought about what I could do with it back in England, and how my family would be surprised to see me return rich with gold coins in my pockets. So I had already made my decision. However, Abdullah Khan thought I was still unsure, so he pushed me to decide more quickly. Think about it, Sahib, he said. If this man is caught by the commander, he will be hanged or shot, and his jewels will be taken by the government, so no one will gain anything from them. But if we take him, why should we not keep the treasure as well? The jewels will be just as safe with us as in the company's stores. There will be enough to make all of us rich and powerful men. No one can ever know because we are far from everyone here. What place could be better for this? So tell me again, Sahib, are you with us, or must we treat you as an enemy? I am with you heart and soul, I said. Good, he answered, giving me back my gun. You see that we trust you, because your word, like ours, must not be broken. Now we only need to wait for my brother and the merchant. Does your brother know what you plan to do? I asked. The plan is his. He made it. We will go to the gate and share the watch with Muhammad Singh.